Thank you very much. Good morning. My host, Professor Julian, who has already spoken on his knowledge and lack of knowledge, and I hope that we could all provide him with more information on Moringa. Representative of the Indian High Commission, Professor Narayan Singh, and other academics from the University of Trinidad and Tobago, ladies and gentlemen, when I was invited to attend, I was already completely committed for this weekend. And I looked at the invitation a few times and tried to figure out what benefit I would bring this morning to a discussion on Moringa. And a couple days ago, I decided that I may not be able to attend, mainly because I may not be able to satisfy the needs of my hosts. And I changed my mind, mainly because I feel that coming here today, I would make known to everybody some of my thoughts on not only Moringa, but this issue of family remedies, herbal remedies, miracle drugs, superfoods, and also to talk about some of the opportunities that may be presented, but some of the risks I've already seen, and some of the risks that may increase if we don't address it at today's symposium and thereafter. 5 minutes have been allocated to me, and I know that I would need much more time. I intend to take 15 minutes. I don't usually come with a written script, but I've brought some of the materials that I would like to refer to. And I believe that if I'm successful this morning, I would have addressed Moringa and matters related to Moringa in the way that I think it should be addressed. So the first thing is to say that I will do 3 things this morning. My first would be an expression of gratitude for the invitation to come here. The second would be a caution that I would offer. And the third would be some advice I would offer. And let me tell you this, a lot of people don't realize that a Ministry of Agriculture has become a very complex ministry in the current environment. And I see one of my predecessors, Professor Samaru, is here. And I'm sure he will agree with me that the environment in which I operate today is far different from the one that he operated in. But in many cases, the challenges remain the same. You see, when I took up office, I did 2 things. One is to say that I would not be caught up in the food bill trap that many ministers have been caught up with, the food import bill. And I laid out the case that in the food import bill, there are things which are controllable, but there are also things which are uncontrollable. When you look at meat, wheat, grain, rice, oil, when you look at what is imported for the purpose of reprocessing and export, many of those things are uncontrollable in the extent to which we import them, and uncontrollable in its pricing. And what we should be focusing on, and what I've spoken about, is that category where we have control based on the things that we could produce competitively. And we could increase the production and we could reduce that segment of the food import bill. But I also said something after being sworn in. I said that the focus should not be on the food import bill and the allocation of the ministry as much as it should be on this issue of health. Because keep in mind, in 1999, when Brian Kwaitong was dealing with the national budget, the national security budget was, for the last time, under $1 billion. And because we did not attend to the things that we should have attended to, we are dealing now with a national security budget that is between 10 to 12 billion. Similarly, it does not matter really the allocation to the ministries. What you have to look at is where our health bill has reached, for example. It's moved. It's gotten to 10 million. And it would not be decreased unless something happens catastrophically with our economy. And a lot of us are missing the most important thing in relation to agriculture and health. All the reports, including the PAHO report of 2013 that dealt extensively with non-communicable diseases, tells us that the issues that are driving the high cost of health in Trinidad and Tobago are related to health matters over which we have control. And one of the things that has been cited as a way in which we can change the course of this health budget is the consumption of food which is deemed already to be healthy, food that comes from sources that we are familiar with, and food that comes with a reliability of supply and a quality of supply that can meet the demands of the health needs of our consumers. And that is very important and very vital. And when we talk about agriculture, the key components of what we produce should be in relation to the production of vegetables, in relation to the production of fruits, which over time have declined in terms of its availability and supply in this country. So a Minister of Agriculture today has the task of dealing with issues of food safety, issues of health and wellness of our citizens, significant trade matters, a lot of them inherited over time when we pushed our energy products into markets, and in doing so, we sacrificed our market for agriculture products. We allowed the importation. Professor Samaru will tell you that he had the capacity to ban apples and grapes. I do not have that facility available to me. And the reason we do not have that facility is because our trade agreements have given up valuable space in our economy. I have to deal with the issue of customs and tariffs and the porous nature of the borders and the way the customs division is managed, in which there are no container inspections. And everything is allowed into the country without regard to source, quality, labeling, and without regard to some of the fanciful claims that those products make. And part of what I've had to do is to try to level the playing field, to make sure local producers and local production is protected. Because every market that we wish to enter into is heavily protected using a variety of measures under international trade agreements. So I'm grateful for the invitation, because I believe that while Moringa has been a traditional source of food, and not many people know it in Trinidad, but I and those who grew up in homes with vegetarians in particular would know that the East Indians chewed on the moringa as though they were chewing on a bone. And it brought a sense of nutrition, an element of nutrition It brought food, and it is commonly used in East Indian communities, and particular among those who are vegetarians. So we know that. But I'm also grateful for this opportunity today for a deeper consideration, not only of Moringa, but a deeper consideration of traditional food sources and non-traditional food sources which are available to us. I'm also grateful for an opportunity for discussion on health foods and health supplements and miracle foods and superfoods and all these things. Every morning I look at the television, and every morning there is something claiming to be a miracle drug, a miracle product, a product that will bring you to the fountain of youth. And notwithstanding all the claims, my colleague, the Minister of Health, talks about the growing crisis of non-communicable diseases and the extent to which we have not addressed the issue at its source, which is our individual decision on what we are going to consume. So I would say that Saijan or Moringa as a food source is undisputed. Whether you like the taste, whether you know how to cook it and prepare it, whether you have consumed the leaves and you're prepared to consume the leaves because the research has demonstrated that it is a cheap and a high source of protein, it's entirely up to you. But I am satisfied that as a potential food source, there is some merit in it. Moringa as a tree is of course undisputed. In fact, it is a tree that, from what I have read and the research, it grows faster than most trees. And in those areas where, as you've heard me said across the country, we need to replant in green spaces, in public spaces, in open spaces, Moringa may serve as a tree, not a shady tree, because it's right there and you could see it. Not a shady tree, but a tree that would add value to the forest resources that we already have. There are two areas that are wide open for the debate. And that is one, Moringa as a health supplement, and two, Moringa as a drug. And there are other speakers who would follow me, one in particular who would address the issue of the pharmacology, and one who would address the issue of Moringa and its use as traditional medicine in Trinidad and Tobago. And I look forward to hearing them, and I know that you'll be paying particular attention to what they will say. But I would say this. The FDA, for example, and I'm not going into the debate about big pharmaceuticals and small pharmaceuticals and the battle between big pharma in the United States and practitioners of traditional medicine. I'm not going to go into that, but I acknowledge that that is a debate. But it is important that you know that for those products that are advertised in the United States, or where people try to land those products in the United States, the FDA has consistently issued letters of warning to them relating to the claims their advertising material or any other material, including the website or the blogs or whatever, have made in relation to Moringa as a drug. And the FDA has consistently done that. I know it's not surprising. It's not surprising because of the stance the FDA has historically taken in relation to drugs, in relation to medicines, in relation to traditional medicines. I'll give you an example. You may have seen recently in the last few days, the FDA has used a fast-track process for a drug developed by Merck, which is believed to be able to deal with cancer in a manner that has not been done before. And the FDA has fast-tracked the process for that particular Merck product. The cost of that product to a user in the United States is $156,000 a year, US dollars. So it is not cheap. And it tells you that the FDA is capable of accelerating, but the FDA is also capable of blocking and stopping and destroying. But I will say that anybody who intends to interface with the US market in relation to Moringa, and it claims in relation to diabetes, hypertension, blood pressure, cancer, all of those things will be met with official opposition from the FDA in the United States. Likewise in Europe, for anybody wanting to deal with Moringa within the European Union acknowledges that Moringa could be advertised, sold, and offered for sale as a food supplement. But when it comes to Moringa as a herbal medicinal product, the EU is also very clear that nothing in relation to Moringa can be linked to Moringa as a herbal medicine. And that is important for us to understand. And those are some of the barriers and some of the challenges that we would meet once we step out of Trinidad and Tobago in relation to Moringa. I would also say this: the debate on herbal medicines and traditional medicines go beyond the FTA and goes beyond the European Union. We know for a fact, and there's been research, in 2013, for example, there was research that demonstrated that based on DNA barcoding used in herbal products offered for sale in some of the most reputable retailers in the United States and Canada, there were issues which arose, and issues which are significant. The first is that, and there were three main issues. The first is that of the herbal products taken off the shelf and tested, the research found that in more than 44% of the cases, the herbs which were supposed to be in the product was not present in the product. And right away, you know you enter into a realm of mislabeling, misbranding, misrepresentation, and perhaps more significant breaches of the law. The other issue was the issue of substitution. And for those who are familiar with the black pepper from China story, the issue of substitution is a grave issue. For me, it is better to use Moringa, knowing that it can be consumed, but not necessarily delivering what I would like it to do, than consuming something used as a substitute which may be unhealthy or potentially destructive to my health. And that is the second finding of that research. And the third research was the issue of fillers. Fillers used in tablets and fillers used in other health supplements, where the product that was advertised as the superfood and the superdrug and the miracle cure was again not present. But the risk is not just the absence of the product, or the absence of the product in the quantities which are specified, but the use of something which would not do what it says it would do, and which may in fact bring more harm than good. And I go now into an area that is extremely topical in Trinidad and Tobago. I myself, in a previous incarnation, wrote in my newspaper column about this issue. And you know, I'll just go back to two of Naipaul's classics. One is the Mystic Monsieur, which talks about the person in the village who walks about offering treatment for everything, including loss of spouse, loss of financial power and will, and loss of health, and all the various things. The Mystic Monsieur. But also in House for Mr. Biswas, Naipaul makes a very important cultural commentary on Trinidadians and Tobagonians. And that is the extent to which we obsess ourselves with our health. And in fact, in some cases, We take pride in the fact that we have to go to the doctor and go to the hospital and the doctor recommended these 50 medications, and we take a sense of pride in poor health, bad health and medications, when in fact we should be focusing on what is within our control and trying to make ourselves as healthy as possible. And I say this in the context of the offers which I referred to before, the number of miracle drugs, the number of local, and a lot of people feel that because it's local, it is good. And a lot of people believe because it comes from a tree, it would work. And I don't have to go further than Boa Bande to support that view. But what we have done, because of our failure as a country to deal with the issue of food safety, because of our failure to deal with the issue of herbal medicine and non-traditional medicine and complementary medicine, we have allowed the mystic messieurs and the charlatans to take over. So in fact, there is absolutely no standard in this country governing this matter of herbal medicine and alternative medicine, traditional medicine and complementary medicine. We have a very thin piece of legislation dealing with toxic chemicals. We have a very, very thin, I think it must be 60 or 70-year-old Food and Drug Act. And what we have left as a country is the door wide open for charlatans to take advantage of what is an increasing burden of poor health on our society and make money off the perils of individuals who in many cases don't know better and have no choice. And this is perhaps the main area that I think that this symposium and the follow-up work would engage us. It will introduce the need for research. And I'll just quickly refer to work done by the ILO, the WHO, which has itself recognized the importance of traditional medicine, and in fact, a few years ago, established a Center for Traditional Medicine. And based on the work of the ILO, WHO, I'll quickly talk about some of the things that the WHO has identified as important areas where herbal medicine, traditional medicine, and complementary medicine needs to improve. And that is at the top of the list, the lack of research data. And I think this is the area that the UTT is setting itself up to contribute to. Secondly, this issue of advertising claims and false claims, because if we do not regulate it, the people and the producers with products that are beneficial are going to suffer at the hands with those charlatans who are offering something which would bring no medicinal and no health benefit to the user. And then it goes on to talk about things relating to research, the regulatory environment, and putting in place a system and a structure in which the big pharma and traditional medicine and herbalists can compete fairly on a level playing field. And that is not happening in the United States, it's not happening in Europe, and it's far, far away from happening in Trinidad and Tobago. So my advice to you, we should focus first on what we know. And that is that Moringa and other things that are grown in Trinidad are good for food and good for our health based on the fact that we've been consuming it for a long time. And I could use my own example. If I ever come down with a cold, I would go and find chandelier bush and use it, and I would never need to go to a pharmacy. And I could only say that, not because I've seen the research on chandelier, or not because I've been told or it's been prescribed to me. I could use it simply because my forefathers have used it, I have used it, and it's worked every single time. That is one area that, based on some element of research and practice and cultural traditions, we've established that these are things that we use and we've used successfully in the country. I think that we should pay attention to those areas where there are still gaps and fill those gaps with the benefit of research, science, and the benefit of the input of our community in either establishing the workability of something or putting it to rest once and for all. And finally, that we focus on the truth in advertising. And I just want to close on this point. And it's something that I've said over and over and over for a long time. The fact is that our country recognizes in its law one type of professional who can provide medical advice. And the advice that cannot be provided by somebody who is not a registered medicinal practitioner is very, very detailed. It is contained in Section 23 of the Medical Board Act. And I would encourage the UTT, I would encourage everybody to have a look at Section 23 of the Medical Board Act. Because those people who advertise and in trying to sell the product make claims about diabetes and hypertension and high blood pressure are actually in breach of the law. What we can do is that we can refer, and UTT can assist in that way. We can refer to literature. We can provide brochures that refers to scientific data which establishes the claim that we are making. Because far too often, I go to all these activities and I see various leaves packaged in Ziploc bags and being offered as a cure for cancer. And I think we need to be very careful about that. I also want to refer to the one exception that is of significance to us in that Section 23 provision, because Section 23 is very clear. No person who is not registered holder of a license can either directly or indirectly carry on for higher gain or hope of reward the healing art in any of its branches. And it deals with by advertisement, by offering to diagnose or by doing a diagnosis, by prescribing and offering and all of those the treatment. But there's one important exception. Lower down in Section 27, the Act says, nothing in this Act shall prevent the domestic administration of family remedies. And that is significant because the law has always recognized that within our homes and within our communities, without offering it for sale and without offering the services of a doctor in our society, traditional medicine based on historic remedies has always been practiced. And the law recognizes that where families continue that tradition, they are not going to be caught by the prohibition. And I think that is our starting point. Our starting point is to use, as the UTT has done, the existing information, build on what is available internationally, and in the absence of the regulatory environment, build our own supporting system around Moringa and all the traditional remedies so that when we offer the products to a very willing consumer group, we offer it with a sense of integrity, knowing that we are offering truth in advertising. Let me just close by saying that today we are here for 1M, the Moringa. But I see sometime into the future, without speaking on behalf of the government, I see the day will come when a similar symposium will be held on the other M, marijuana, where as a country we will discuss everything that has been discussed outside of these islands. And we will land in a position where even that M may one day become available for use for those who really need it in support of serious health ailments. I say no more, and I await the debate, and I hope that when that M lands in the Parliament, I'll still be there to speak on behalf of my community, Rio Claro and Mayaro. Thank you.